Hi, folks, with Tassus today. Tassus today, your pushback channel. Thank you for joining this audio live stream. There have been a few stories sort of doing the rounds online about hot chicks complaining that they can't get dates. You know, guys just won't hit on them. Guys are too scared to hit on them. Hot chicks claim they're going for months, many months at a time without getting laid or having any hot sex, and this sort of stuff. And some of them post online. I'm not sure I'd agree all of them are hot or stunners. I think some of these girls are really overrating themselves quite substantially. But some of them I'd rate as a 3 or 4 out of 10. So that doesn't mean that they shouldn't or couldn't get dates. If you work on the theory that, for every Jack there's a Jill and that sort of thing, that just because they're not hot, it doesn't mean that there's no guy out there who wouldn't be interested. Maybe they're very nice people or very gentle and warm and caring. There are other factors, but just assuming looks are the issue on their own, and it's just a lust play. Lust is the only factor. No one's thinking about the sweetness and light of a long-term relationship with companionship and holding hands on the beach and sort of stuff. So let's just look at it from a lust perspective. Now, not everyone's view of what a stunner, hot smoking hot babe is the same. Just a little while ago, there was a guy who's quite a bit younger than me, but he'd be about 40, I suppose. He was gagging and jumping out of his skin that this smoking hot babe had come to work at his place, and she was like he was her boss, and so he got to ogle at her all day. And I obviously, you ought to see her. And he's losing it, just describing it. Now, again, not everyone has the same view of beauty, but anyway, it turns out I'd seen this girl a few times. I mean, she's all right, but I wouldn't give her any more than 6 out of 10 max, and that's on a good sunny day. So to me, she's like 5'5", slightly built. She's got really scrawny legs, she just doesn't do it for me. There's something quite, she covers it up with clumsy attempts at etiquette, but there's something rather vulgar about her manners and so on, which I picked up straight away. Anyway, I looked at her. I mean, I wouldn't fuck her. I wouldn't hit on her. I wouldn't. So I didn't think she just done it at all. But this guy was losing the plot over it. Now, the reverse is also true. There was a lady I dated who was like an athlete, track and field athlete, and she was, I thought she was smoking hot. She's like 5'11", 180 centimeters, and very, very fit, super athletic, very athletic legs. I thought she was smoking hot, but a couple of guys, and I think no, she's too tall. No, her legs are too muscular. No, and their preference is for small, petite chicks. But they don't do the same for me as they do. So men have different views on what may be stunning. Now you can look at, say, a fashion model who's got a face of perfect symmetry, and they're on all the billboards or advertising and things like that. They got perfect symmetry, and you can say beauty in a classical sort of sense, like a beautiful painting or a beautiful etching or a beautiful statue, that type of thing, and there's beauty in that almost an abstract sense. But I've sort of hung out with crowds with some of these very popular fashion models or fashion models, and not all like in the flesh without their makeup and the hair and the lighting and so on. They're not anywhere near as hot, and again, they're very scrawny. There was a few years ago, there was a lady. So she'd won she'd won a number of beauty contests, and you couldn't deny that in that facial sort of symmetry and structure that she wasn't beautiful. She was, but but again, I'm not sure I could have got horizontal with her. She was just too scrawny. Like, I mean, she was tallish, but she was just too scrawny. My dick is bigger than her. Yeah, so no, I didn't find her beautiful, or not attractive in the sense that I would find in a mixture of lust and a roll in the hay and that sort of thing. So coming back now to women that I've thought were very attractive and that other men may have. And again, I'll tend more to the lust side than anything here. It's for some men, it's scary, the fear of rejection. Also, the fear that if she's that hot, she must have about 1 million guys hitting on her and trying to date her. She can have any guy she wants, and she might think that I'm not any, not in her league. So she might reject me on the basis that, well, you go out with you. You got to be kidding. I wouldn't fucking date you. You 1 out of 10, motherfucker. So that's a concern I think that a lot of men have. I used to have when I was younger. I used to think that when I was younger, in my early 20s or teens, whatever, that the hot chick would reject me on the basis that she had so many better offers out there. But it's not necessarily so. A lot of men think that way, even men who are older. There are men I know who are in their 40s that are too scared to go and hit on a chick. No, I don't mean in the workplace necessarily. I'm just talking generally. Workplace would be different these days. You'd have to be very, very careful. You could be accused of, I don't know, harassment or something. But the really hot guy may not. But there was a guy I used to work with. I thought he was built like one of those Greek gods, the statues, and it was interesting that none of the girls would fuck him because they thought that they considered he was hot, they considered he was smoking hot, but they wouldn't because they figured he had so many options and so many hot babes there that he would either reject them, which they didn't want, or he would just use them as a quick casual fuck, and therefore they wouldn't, their power in the relationship as they perceived it would be zero because this guy was so smoking hot, and so none of the girls, even the hot chicks in the office, wouldn't fuck him, which I thought was surprising. Now the guy turned out he was a bit of a slut because he could get the hottest of the hot chicks pretty easily, and he used to bring in photographs of some of the chicks that this is the chick I dated last weekend. This is the chick from the weekend before. Some of these chicks, by the way, were smoking hot, no question. But again, you've got this thing of perception of beauty, perception of how much control do I have, how much what are my chances realistically? All these sort of things go through the minds of a lot of people. No, I'm one of those guys that I don't necessarily care about that so much. So I'll ask, and I've got no problem. I'm not sure it's even a confidence thing. It's more a practical thing. So I would go up and ask, look, if you're not seeing anybody, I'd like to have a cup of coffee with you or something, or just see where it goes. And I think you look really nice. And now you've got to be prepared for rejection. You can't do that sort of thing and not be. I mean, there's an old thing, faint heart never won fair lady, and it certainly goes back, I think, a few hundred years that one. But the idea is, if you don't ask, how will you ever get anywhere with it? If you just want something delivered to you on the doorstep, or the next door neighbour, or your best friend's sister or something, that type of thing, that I think that's a bit weak. I think you've got to be prepared. If you see someone you like who looks nice, you ask. It doesn't mean they are nice. There are times I've had a cup of coffee and I'm thinking, whoa, this babe's smoking hot. Turns out she's an asshole, and I can't wait to finish the coffee and get out. I mean, you get those sort of things. Similarly, not everyone you ask is interested. Some girls, they just tell you to fuck off, and are you some? I mean, I remember one girl asked, and she turns to me in this very defensive, sort of paranoid way and says, "Are you some sort of a psycho?" And I've just asked her if she wants to have a coffee, and that's the response I get. So you've got to be prepared for for a lot of different responses. But some will say, "Oh, hey, yeah, and what my experience is, and it's only mine. My experience is the hotter the chick, the more likely she'll appreciate the approach, or what I perceive as hot at least. The more likely now. I'll go for the fitter, taller chicks, so that's just my thing. Other people go for little midget chicks. I get that, but that's that's sort of my preference. And I suppose they may be more intimidating to men generally because they're I don't know, the height or athleticism or something. But I find that sexy. So maybe there's less competition. But nonetheless, I'm prepared to go. And I've done pretty good on that score of just having the ability just to front up and say, hey, you look really nice. I'd like to have a talk to you and have a coffee. So I haven't had a problem with that. I've had rejections from it, by the way. But that's that's part of the game. That's how it. But I think women appreciate that level of confidence in a man, that they are able to go up and invite. Not in a crude way. You can't go up and be rude and vulgar or something. I'm talking about being polite and being sort of gentle with the approach. That's the sort of thing. But it still takes a certain amount of confidence to do that, and I think women appreciate that. So I came back to the issue of do hot women struggle to get dates or get guys hitting on them? I think they probably do, and I think in the same way that maybe hot guys do. And it depends on the environment you're in. Is it a workplace? Is it a nightclub? Is it a bar? Is it like, are you all part of the same group? Like, are you all part of the same I don't know, museum group or something? Like what sporting group or whatever. And if that's the case, then you can meet people through that. But it's the same. I think if I'm out just on the street, or I'm out at the grocery store, or I'm just wherever. I had this thing at any time. If I saw a hot or one I thought was hot, I would, assuming they were there on their own. I mean, if they're there with the husband and the 5 kids, not. But I would go up and ask, and more often than not, I got a yes. Again, did get rejections, and some of them, some of the women were psychos, and I thought, well, good, I've dodged a bullet there. Better find that early rather than later. But there you go. So just in concluding, would stunning women find it difficult to get dates or get guys hitting on them? I think they would. Now, I noticed that rich men like trophy wives. So if you're a stunning chick and you're prepared to sell yourself out to the rich guy, then do that. And I've had, and they're likely to acquire you as an object, as they would for, a piece of furniture or something like that. And but I've come across beauty queen women who've married rich older men, and especially if the man has a stroke or something, and they have an arrangement that the older man with the stroke and the young beauty queen, that she can bring home guys to fuck. It has to be discreet. You can't have a scandal or engage in sort of vulgarity out there. But and I've been caught up in that, or more than once actually. And you don't know it because they don't tell you. I want you to come over and meet my husband, Billy Bob. Oh, why? Oh, well, it'd just be nice for you. We've got a nice house with fantastic ocean views. And we're having a barbecue and this and that, and so you go along and they talk to you, and the guy meets you, and you can almost tell it's an interview, but you're sort of, well, where's this going? What are you doing? Are they going to offer me a job or something? I mean, what's happening here? And what they're doing is that both the agreement is that the wife needs, he's had a stroke, he can't do it, can't perform. He accepts that she needs, dick, she needs the horizontal stuff. So they're going to get a guy to come in to get horizontal with her. But they have this deal, this arrangement where they both have to agree on the guy. So she brings him, well, I want him, do you agree? And he says yes, and then that's it. And then and only then do they disclose the duties that the guy they're bringing in has to perform. And the babe's hot. No, I thought this babe was smoking hot. So, but I was so affronted by this idea that I was going to be used for the sexual gratification of the wife because he couldn't do it, and they must have been 30 years age gap between them. The trophy wife thing. So she. So when I she said, well, don't you think I'm hot? Well, yeah, I think you're hot, but I'm not happy with this arrangement. I mean, what is it? Is your stroke-ridden husband going to sit there watching while you jack off while we do it or something? What's going on here? Made me think of American Gigolo, Richard Gere. But she then sort of went to the husband and said, look, and came back to look, if there's a problem here, we'll pay you. And I thought, no, that's not it. You've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback channel. Thank you for listening.